so I still haven't seen Crazy Rich Asians, but there is a relatively new Asian film that I really want to share with you guys because I think that it's a much better representation of what we're capable of as filmmakers, and that film is Park Chan-wook's 2016 film, The Handmaiden. If you haven't heard of this film, then that's absolutely fine. The whole point of this video is to introduce you to films like this and show that we can do more than just rom-coms. The Handmaiden, which was released in 2016 as I previously mentioned, was adapted from an English novel, but instead of setting it in England, Park Chan-wook decided to move the story over to Korea, which at the time was occupied by Japan. This occupation was between 1910 and 1945, making it a period piece, which is where things get quite interesting because most period pieces, even by some of my favourite directors, are made to feel as if they were shot during that time. There's a clear lack of fancy camera work, the visuals are toned down, and overall it just feels quite sensible. Now there have of course been directors who utilise more modern filmmaking styles like handheld and sweeping long takes. The first one that comes to mind is Les Mis, directed by Tom Hooper. Park Chan-wook takes things to the next level though. I mean, there are shots in the film that are completely static and by the way look like straight up paintings. But the idea that only lockdown shots on a tripod or a dolly should be used for period pieces seems to be thrown out the window because, as I mentioned, there are shots like this, but there are also shots like this. Park Chan-wook has never shied away from fancy camera work. Those who have seen Old Boy will know exactly what I'm talking about. Look at this scene for example. Instead of cutting to a shot of this guy, the camera moves to reveal him. Now this does quite a few things. Firstly, the framing of this shot shows us whose side he is on in the conflict, as both characters here are looking in the same direction. Secondly, a lack of cuts makes any and all cuts feel more impactful, as we see when they cut here. This also shows a separation between the two characters as they are not shown in the same frame like these two. And three, the camera moving to show him as opposed to him moving into a still frame essentially suggests that we are moving into his world and not the other way around. He is not moving for the camera has to move for him, and so it's clear who holds the power in this situation. This technique is used quite often actually. Just look at the way that he films a simple conversation scene. Instead of doing the average shot reverse shot technique, he does it all in one take but moves the camera around to highlight certain characters. Notice that the camera moves to whoever holds the power in that scene. It focuses on this guy when he's giving information to both the characters and the audience, but when he highlights the importance of that girl in the background, it moves to her. By the way, I know most people haven't seen the film, so I'm trying to be as vague as possible. Now let's look at how Park Chan-wook films a simple conversation between two individuals. It's a simple two-shot which is framed so that we can see the activity happening in the background while also letting us watch the conversation. The fact that it doesn't cut gives us time to really register the behaviours and mannerisms of these characters, and only cuts when absolutely necessary, and just when you think it's going to be a static shot, boom, dolly's back. Now compare that to this conversation scene that I just found on YouTube from Crazy Rich Asians.
Singapore for spring break.
Cut.
Colin's wedding. We've been dating for over
Cut.
a year now, and I think it's about time people met my beautiful girlfriend.
Cut.
Come on. I'm Colin's best man. Don't you want to see where I grew up? Meet my
Cut.
family, my Ama, and meet up with that strange college roommate of yours.
Take Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
She has been begging me to come visit her.
Actually,
you
no.
know.
The
Cut.
universe has spoken.
Oh,
It
really?
wants you over there.
Cut. Oh, finally a two-shot, well done. Oh, and we haven't even touched on the story. I'm going to be very vague, but I hope that I'll be able to get my points across. Now, I'm sure most of you have seen The Prestige, another great period piece. It's actually one of my all-time favourite films. One of the great things about The Prestige is that there are a lot of plot twists, but they all work because Nolan put a genuine amount of time setting everything up to make sure that it all makes sense and that it fits with the story and the characters. The same can be said with The Handmaiden. The film's unconventional structure feels very deliberate. Firstly, the structure makes this film one of the most fast-paced 2-hour and 50-minute films I've ever seen, but the non-linear aspect of it makes it so that the audience is constantly on the back foot, and the level of detail in literally every aspect of the film makes it so that a rewatch is actually rewarding, because we pick up clues to the twists that we looked over on first viewing. Now, Park Chan-wook is just one of so many talented Asian filmmakers whose filmmaking voice desperately needs to be heard. Although highly praised, other Asian directors like Wong Kar-wai, Bong Joon-ho and Zhang Yimou, just to name a few, have been making masterpieces for decades but have simply been ignored by mainstream moviegoers who keep saying they want something new apparently. Now, if you've seen The Handmaiden, firstly, thank you, I think that you'll get why I think that it's the real Crazy Rich Asians. To conclude, Crazy Rich Asians may be fun and have a lot of heart. Just from watching a few clips and hearing what friends have had to say about it, it's clear that this is not a good enough representation of Asian filmmaking. This is.